it Ori? Is it like, do you speak Hebrew? Uriel.
Oh, you speak Hebrew?
אני מדבר עברית, כן, ההורים שלי ישראלים. No? Okay.
My brother is a rabbi.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. Oh, we've got a girl back there. She's not too comfortable at all.
I thought you were probably Israeli because when I saw you, like...
With a name like Ori Goldstein, yeah. It kind of gives it away.
So your full name is Uriel, right?
Ori.
Uri, not Uriel?
No, just Ori. O-R-I. Aleph Vav Resh.
Oh.
Ori.
Okay, because my brother is Uri, U-R-I.
Uri? From the Hebrew translation, it's the same, pretty much.
Oh, okay.
It's in Hebrew.
Light of God?
What?
Light of God?
Oli, Ol Sheli.
Is it light?
So it's light of mine, my light.
Uriel is light of God.
Uriel would be, yeah, light of God. So that's what your son's name is? How old is your son?
17.
Yeah? And so you, from what I understand, are actually working with the Jewish community a lot? Mm-hmm. That's pretty amazing. And so what do you do with them?
My brother is a rabbi, so I have my own connection.
Connected well. And so have you worked with them in the past in terms of any kind of like therapy work or anything like that?
I always work with everybody. They just don't know it. You know what I mean? I just always have my own way to,
get in with them, connect correctly. And so is that what you want out of this course, really?
Yeah, I just want to be specialized and have a certificate to put on my wall so people look at me differently.
So you can really help in the right way. Okay, so everyone nice and comfortable after lunch?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah? I gotta say, I'm kind of excited. I mean, over lunch, Pavel was telling me about you guys. He says that there's a great group energy here. I'm definitely excited to be part of it. But I know we all just ate. I know we all digesting food and excited to see what's going on. But let's just get everything moving in the right direction first. Let's start off. Just close your eyes for a sec. Get nice and comfortable. Take a deep breath in and hold it for a sec. Then when you're ready, just let it on out with a sigh. Feel the chair beneath you. Pay attention to the sound of my voice. What I want you to do is just think about a time from your past when you felt really connected with a lesson that you were receiving or a teacher that was providing a lesson. Think about a time that something really made sense to you, that something clicked inside, and you just got that feeling, I get this. I want you to feel what that's like on the inside. When you get that feeling, that something has changed inside and it's really going to change the way you see the world from this point forth. Because the more you connect with that feeling, the more you can actually take from the lessons that you receive in this class. All hypnosis is, when it's all said and done, is finding the resources within and bringing them forth. And so what we want to do today specifically is help you connect with those resources inside of yourself, connected with learning more and being able to take this forth. Being able to think about the people in your future. If you would, even just think about moving forward into your future. This class is over. You had the most amazing experience. Move forward a week into the future, a month into the future. Think about 5 years into the future after you've helped dozens, perhaps even hundreds of people. And I want you to think about how much you've learned, how much you've connected with people, and how people have changed their lives and are grateful to you for having been that changing force in their lives. That is the energy I want you to pay attention to. That is the feeling I want you to pay attention to inside of yourselves right now as we continue on today. And I know we just had lunch, we digested the food, everything else, but every once in a while I'll ask you to come back into this feeling. This feeling that lets you know that this can be the moment that starts to change things for you, that starts to change things for you and others in your life. So when you're ready, just find that feeling inside of yourself. Go ahead, breathe it in as if it was a color. And then once you have that feeling inside of yourself properly and you can think about what it's like to really connect, learn something new and powerful, go ahead, open up your eyes, look forward here. Come back into this room. And so I did that for a few different reasons. Obviously, we wanted to start off on the right path. The other thing is I wanted you to pay attention to the way I talk. Let me know if I'm talking too quickly.
A little bit.
A little bit too quick? Okay, that's a good thing. It's I definitely wanted to be aware of that.
You just need time to imagine a couple things.
Of course, okay. And that's exactly the stuff I wanted to find out. It's right now, it's like I told you before we got started, is I can talk for days on end. I love talking. I love sharing this information. And I've got so much I want to share that I'm really excited to get to share it with you. And at the same time, I feel kind of challenged because I usually share this over the course of 3 or 4 days. So I want to share with you so much, but at the same time, it's not about sharing with you. It's how much you guys take away from what I give. So if at any point in time you want me to talk slower, you want me to explain something, this is not about me sharing information. This is about you connecting with information I share. So slow me down, ask questions, and even if we don't cover everything, I want whatever we do cover to be covered well. And so with that being said, Pavel spoke a bit earlier about what we're going to be doing today about parts work. And I want to start off with a bit of a story. So I was in your position, scary to say, about 17 years ago when I first started learning hypnosis. And after I started learning it, I started working for a weight loss clinic. And so you learn the basics, you learn how to give suggestions, you're going to eat smaller portions, you're going to feel yourself more motivated to eat the right foods. But at the same time, whoever came in, came in. You never knew who you were going to be dealing with. So my 10th session, it could have been my 9th, could have been my 11th, my 10th session, a man comes in, highly overweight, and I'm like, okay, fine. I can talk to him about portion control, no big deal. And he sits down in front of me, and as I start asking questions, so what are you here for? He goes, I'm attracted to young children. And my niece, I have very uncomfortable feelings about what I would like to do with my niece. And here I am, 10 sessions in, all of 21 years old, going, okay, so what do we do about this? But at the same time, here's a person sitting in front of me, and I've got to help him. And I don't really know where to take it. But that's when my training kicked in, and I had to think about the fact of, I think about the concept of pedophilia, I think about the concept of grown people being attracted to young children. Absolutely disgusting. But at the same time, you can't sit with a person sitting in front of you, they come into you with the most interesting of problems you'll ever experience. And one of the main presuppositions that we have to get into our minds is the person sitting in front of you is a beautiful soul that has had some kind of experiences in their past that we need to help them find new resources to get past. So at that point in time, I could look at him and say, I'm dealing with a pedophile, I'm dealing with a person that is attracted to young children, or I could be looking at a person that has experienced a certain set of experiences in their past that leads them towards thinking about things in a very specific way. Does that make sense? And one of the presuppositions that always guides me in situations like that is the fact that everyone will always do the best that they can given their resources. If you think about it, no one comes onto this earth wanting to fail. Of course, people do. What gets a person to the place that they don't do things in the right way? The fact that they're not accessing the right resources in the right situations.
Because there are not many people to teach us the right way, because they're all making their mistakes.
They're all making their mistakes, and we all have well-meaning parents, as best as they can be, and those are our main teachers, but at the same time our parents also have their limitations. So we learn from them as best as we can, and then we go and we look out at the world, and we make our own assumptions about the world. And as we make our assumptions about the world, we learn how to deal with the world. And then another very important assumption that I deal with is the fact that every behavior a person presents is spurned from a positive intention. What I mean by that is, and I know that that's a lot of big words, whatever it is, all it means is every single time a person does something, however bad the action that the person takes is, on a deep enough level, there's a positive reason why they want to do that, why they're doing that. And what my job is to find out what that positive intention is and help them find a better way to reach that positive intention. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's what parts therapy, when it's all said and done, is about. So to continue on with the story, this man sitting in front of me, he says he's attracted to his young niece. And we started doing a session, and in the session I said, I want you to find that part inside of yourself that's attracted to your niece. And I want you to tell me, I want you to see if you can pay attention to it. And the man closed his eyes, he went into a bit of a trance, and he found the part inside of himself that gave him that yearning feeling. And I said, as you pay attention to that part inside of you, what does it want? And it said, I want sexual gratification. Makes sense. I want to connect with her. And I said, okay, that doesn't help me very much in this case. Okay, here's me with my 10 hypnosis sessions behind me going, oh shit, that's not what I was hoping for. I was hoping for something beautiful. And I said, okay, and if you got that, if you really connected with her, what would that do for you? He said, well, then I wouldn't feel rejected. And I said, okay, so now we're getting somewhere. So being attracted to a young girl, I can't wrap my head around that. Being afraid of being rejected, I can help a person with that. And I would love to help a person with that. What it boiled down to for this man is when he was a young child, he, just like every other child, had his insecurities, had everything else going on. And he saw a girl at school, in high school, whatever it was that he was attracted to, and he walked up to her and he asked her out. He was probably pochmarked with acne, a young teenager, whatever it is. And she laughed at him and said, I'll never go out with a guy like you. So what happened was, he felt so broken down by the rejection, his mind said, I can never feel this way again. And he went back then, at that point in time, and so let's call it 15 years old, he went ahead and he created a part inside of himself. And that part inside of him said, never get rejected. Never be rejected. Forgive me, I am not the best of artists or drawers, but I hope that that makes sense. So he created a part inside of himself when he was 15 years old saying, never get rejected. He goes ahead, he moves forward through time, and as he moves forward through time, every single time that he goes ahead and he sees a girl he likes, he wants to ask her out, but this part inside of him is sitting there saying, it's traveling through time with him, and every single time he sees a girl he likes, it's sitting there saying, well, you could ask her out, but what happens if she rejects you? That could be the fate worse than death. That could be the worst thing that could possibly happen. Don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. So now he's growing through his 20s, through his 30s, and there's still a human need inside of him to connect with other people. His sister goes ahead, has a child, and the child looks at him like a god figure. Thinks he's the most amazing person in the world, loves everything about him. She starts growing up, she gets to the age that she starts looking like a woman, and he's got a woman that he now knows will never reject him because she loves him like a god figure. So this confused man all of a sudden makes this new realization in his mind, well, let me do something with her because then I'll be safe. So I asked him, so the part inside of you that says I never want to be rejected, what would it get if it never felt that sense of rejection? Well, then I'd be safe. And so what we did was we just worked with that part inside of him that wanted to feel safe. And we went and we showed him new ways to connect with a sense of safety inside of himself, even when talking to women that he found beautiful. And the moment he got to the part inside of himself that he realized he could talk to women that he found beautiful that were his own age, everything else fell into line, and he no longer found his niece attractive. He thought of her as a beautiful young girl. He thought of her as someone that he cherished. But the moment that he got to the point that he could look at a beautiful woman in front of him and feel like he could talk to her, why would he want to go ahead and connect with a person that it doesn't even make sense to him sexually? Does that make sense? You're looking at me with like wide open eyes going, I'm not so sure about that. Does that make sense?
Oh, I think I understand 100% everything.
Yeah?
Just about the language.
Okay. So basically, when it's all said and done, when we're young children, we experience a set of different things. Okay? Here's a perfect example. Here's an absolutely perfect example. This is in hypnosis what we call, or in NLP what we call utilization. We could turn around to her right now and go, this is the cutest thing that I've ever seen. And I think it is super cute, and I love it. What's your name?
Tara.
What's your name?
Tara.
Tara? Hey, Tara. So right now, I could turn around to Tara, and I could give her a positive association to what she's doing. Or another person could look at it, and they could chop her down in whatever way. And based upon what happens to her today, it's possible that given the resources that she has, she could make a new view about her world that she will carry through into the rest of her life. Tara, have a seat up here. Say hi to the group. Hi, everybody. Do you like being up in front of groups? Yeah?
I'm shy.
Oh, we can tell. And so the thing is, why does Tara say that she's shy? Well, in her past, it's possible that she was up in front of someone, or she was in a grocery line, and someone said hi to her in a very weird way, and when she hid behind her mom, and her mom said, it's okay, Tara's shy. But right now, what we're doing is we're going ahead and we're creating a new part inside of her. We're helping her create a part right now that she can sit up in front of groups, and everyone can look at her, and everyone can tell her that she's amazing. Because I think it's pretty amazing that you came up here and sat up in front of a group. Miss, oh, I used to be shy. High five. Thank you very much. And so what are we doing right now? We're helping a part inside of her see a different way. And the more that she can go ahead and connect with that part inside of her, the more we can go ahead and affirm this part, the more we can help her get rid of another part inside of her that said, I'm shy. This is called utilization. This is actually called helping a person through metaphor. I don't need hypnosis. I don't need anything else. In real life, I can go ahead and I can make a change. And however silly this can be, I don't know if this will change her or not. Obviously, we could go ahead and do certain hypnosis techniques to help make sure that it helps her. But this thing in and of itself can be a life-changing experience that when she grows up and stands up in front of a group, when she has to give a speech at her brother's or sister's wedding, or when she has to give a talk in front of her university class, she can remember that time that she sat in front of everyone, and everyone looked at her, and everyone was so proud to see her up there. And everyone smiled back at her, and she felt so comfortable about it. So I just want to use this as an example for the idea of how a part can be created. And just as easily as a negative part can be created, a wonderful new positive part can be created. That make sense? Yeah? And so moving forward through time, we worked with this client, let's just call him Jim, whatever it is. And Jim comes in and says, I'm attracted to this person for I've got this issue, which I'll leave at that for now. And what our job is to not look at that person with judgmental eyes. Our job is to remember that everyone does the best they can given the resources they have, and people don't fall, just in case. Everyone does the best they can given the resources that they have, and every behavior is spurned from positive intention. And if we can go to a high enough level to find what the positive intention is, we can help a person find new ways to achieve that intention. And the moment that they have a new way, they can forget about the old way. Does that make sense? So I helped him realize that what his part wanted was safety. And then I just helped him come up with a lot of different ways to feel safe while talking to women. Safe while talking to women. So the moment I went ahead and helped that part inside of himself get what it wanted, it no longer needed the old behavior because now it had a more powerful way of getting it. So I gave him better resources to use at that time. That make sense? Yeah? Okay. So let's go ahead and let's actually look at this as a way of helping people. And more so than anything else, I want to teach you a technique, but at the same time, I want to look at it from a larger perspective of a way of looking at the world. Because I can tell you that this is the one technique that has definitely changed my way of looking at the world the most. And maybe, just maybe, we'll use Herbert later in a different way too. We'll see how that goes. But right now we're just going to have a gymnast next to us for extra entertainment, because I'm kind of boring sometimes. So, we do have some pretty good stuff going on. That's really awesome.
Wow.
That was really, really good.
What else can you do? Really? Whoa. Good job.
Okay, so now let's look at this as a, so I'll tell you guys another story for a moment. And so I had a client, this thank God wasn't my 10th session, and it wasn't as big a deal. I had a client who told me that his daughter would always draw on the wall with crayon. And it drove him crazy. Like, however much he bought her pieces of paper and said, please draw on the piece of paper. I'll even and he stuck the piece of paper on the wall, and the daughter would go right next to the piece of paper that was on the wall and draw over here. And it would drive him absolutely nuts. It's like, why are you doing this? And it drove him absolutely crazy. And so I said to him, well, every behavior has a positive intention. As opposed to getting upset with her, as opposed to trying to punish her, why don't you find out what that positive intention is? Why don't you go home and talk to her for a moment? And so he sat down with her and he said to her, and we'll talk to you in a minute right about this, I promise. He sat down, he spoke to her, and he said, why do you draw on the wall? I mean, what does it do for you when you draw on the wall? And she says, well, I want something. It's obviously he had to phrase it in such a way that his daughter agreed to talk to him in this way. What it boiled down to was she wanted something that he could always see. She wanted something, if she drew on a piece of paper, she knew eventually he'd throw it away. But she wanted something that was hers, that was going to be up on the wall. So he went and he made a deal with her, which was an interesting way of doing it. He said, what if I bought a brand new canvas and I had you draw on a piece of paper, and what we'll do is we'll actually frame it and we'll put it up on the wall, so it's going to be something that's not just a drawing on a wall that people will think, what's that? But we'll actually make it a spotlight, and we'll bring a light underneath it, and we'll make it super, super bright and shine up for everyone to see. And the daughter loved that idea. And all of a sudden, instead of drawing on a wall, she got all excited about getting a chance to draw something in such a way that everyone got a chance to see it. And then he would start making deals with her about, well, how long do you want that? Maybe like every 3 weeks you can draw something new, so we've always got ways of seeing you grow. Maybe we'll make a little showcase of your different drawings, but we'll get a chance to actually show the things you want. And the reason why I'm sharing this story with you is the fact that you can look at a person's behavior. Whatever the behavior is, it seems to be destructive. And if you look at it from the point of view of what is the intention that the person is trying to achieve, you can always find a way to achieve that intention with the person. And so, for example, we can write, do you want to sit up here for a sec? What do you like most about doing your somersaults in front of us? What?
Somersault?
When you did your funny little flips in front of us. What was your favorite part? Was it when we clapped? Was it when you showed us something new? What did you like the most when you did it?
Clapping?
What?
Clapping.
The clapping? You like the clapping the most? What did you like the most when we clapped? What did it feel like for you when we clapped?
It felt like everyone liked me.
It felt like everyone liked you. Isn't that interesting? You like it when people like you, don't you? And you don't like when people don't like you.
Some people bully me.
Some people bully you?
That's why I'm always shy. Because like, it makes me remember when I got bullied.
And that really hurts, doesn't it? But now when you see that people like you and they clap when you do stuff, doesn't that feel really good? And so when you think about when people used to bully you, I bet you that there's a part inside of you that really doesn't want to talk to a lot of people then, right? So I'm going to come back 1 second. We're going to keep talking about this. But here, what we want to do is we're actually starting to talk to a part. There's a part inside of her that is shy. Why is that part shy? Because she's been bullied in the past. And so it doesn't want people to talk badly to her. But you can see that there's another part inside of her, a super big part inside of her, that really loves it when people clap, huh? And all you want to do is just really shine up in front of people and really look beautiful in front of them, don't you? Yeah. So here's a question for you. Have you ever had someone bully you in the past, but you knew that you were bigger and stronger than them, and so it didn't really bother you?
It kind of hurt my feelings, but I tried to stand back.
But you
But
tried
they
to stand
kept
back?
bullying me, so I did have a chance to tell.
Oh, that's pretty good. So you got a chance to tell, and so you got
I
it.
didn't.
You didn't tell. Tell me what you mean by that. So when they bullied you, what happened?
Like, it was a girl.
It was a girl?
She slapped me.
But she slapped you?
And it hurt him. And I barely got to tell, but the lady saw she would never do that because she would always be kind, but she never saw it.
Oh, that's so basically the other girl always managed to hide it really well.
It was at the Boys and Girls Club.
It was at the Boys and Girls Club, and it really didn't feel good when she was mean to you, huh?
When I was up next, and she said, "It's not your turn yet, but what?" And she had to give out the remote.
Oh.
Dance. We have to copy the ladies and boys, or like they give us a person so we could dance and try to copy. And there's a crown or a throne thing to show that they get the trophy, and whoever wins gets the most points and gets that.
Okay. So here, I'll be right back in a sec, okay?
And there's a star.
Okay. And I want to just also point out the fact that I'm also doing a little bit of anchoring, which Pavel will go over in a couple of days' time, I'm pretty sure. But what I want to point out here is something that happens pretty often. A person has a negative experience, and what they do is they start forming a generalization about the world. They experience something like a girl that's mean to you, really mean to you, and that you need to experience something.
She was bigger than me, and like she doesn't really care about me.
Yeah, and that feels really bad.
She wanted to make friends with me until then. I said, "Could you please give me the remote?" And then she said, "No, I'm gonna do it again." And like it was.
So she really got to be a bully.
She had to switch, and she didn't listen to the coach. So then, I didn't get treasure box because that wasn't ready for treasure box time.
So what we're mentioning right now is the fact that she had an experience with a girl that was bigger than her, and now her mom will mention the fact that she's shy. So what happened was she experienced a negative experience with a person bigger than her, and then you can see that she obviously doesn't want to be shy, but at the same time she develops these shy tendencies because she developed a part inside of her that's afraid that she's going to be rejected or beaten up or told negative things if she does things in the wrong way or annoys a person that's bigger than her. But there's another part inside of you that really enjoys being clapped at, doesn't it?
But I try to stand the people with bully kids and that bully me, but then I can't stand up because then I get scared if they're gonna like do mean things to me, like hold me and throw me. Like once,
Well, that's safety. I mean, you don't want anyone to hurt you. That's
once
crazy,
a
right?
guy named Timmy, he threw me when I didn't even know in the pool when everyone was supposed to know if they wanted if everyone was supposed to know that they were going to throw them in the water. But I didn't know, and I saw I was going to be a timeout because I was talking about something, and I didn't know it was so bad.
So it came to you as a surprise.
And then he picked me up, and I saw he was making me go to timeout, and he made me a little to the side so I won't be too close and bang to her, my friend Gabrielle and Abby. Then they threw me in the pool, and I got scratched by the thing for, you know how people just do that?
And someone scratched you?
No, it scratched me when I wasn't even ready.
Oh.
I was not even in the position, and it hurted so bad they didn't even care.
So I bet you that there's a little part inside of you that's always afraid that something like that's going to happen again, right? And you don't know when it's going to happen, and that's always scary. Because you don't know if they'll ever throw you in the pool and you weren't ready for it or anything else.
Yeah, or like put me in the water, like I went on someone's back, a coach's back, because he let me take a ride to the other side. And
That's
I
cool.
was underwater. I said up, underwater, but then I was up, and just for one moment I said up for a few minutes, and then I couldn't breathe, so then I kept saying up because I had to breathe.
Oh, okay. Well, so I'm going to hold the chair just so you don't fall. But what we're doing here right now, and I know we're moving slightly into a session. I don't want to do that just yet, but we're definitely eliciting some criteria here that would be very helpful towards the session. And we will do this at some point in time. I definitely want to, because we're starting to see some interesting things happening here. But what I want to point out even more so than that is we're starting to, I'm dealing with a person, obviously, a very beautiful person, if I may add. But what we're seeing here is that she's creating a lot of different facets of her personality, a lot of different portions of her personality based upon experiences that she's had. Some of these are good, some of these are bad. And our job, when a person comes to talk to us, they'll usually have a specific issue that shows up. And one of the ways we can deal with it, there's many different ways to get to a solution. But one of the ways we can deal with it is figuring out that part inside of them that's causing the issue and dealing with that part directly. So for example, this is the first time I've ever met this beautiful girl. I don't really know what the issue that we're dealing with, and I'm really hoping that none of these things have ever or will ever become an issue. But I can see that there's definitely a lot of safety things that she brings up over and over again, of getting surprised in different ways that can cause a person to sometimes feel afraid to trust. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And so we can continue on into that session, but at the same time I can also see a very beautiful thing going on. Now, specifically, this is more towards the session, but I can also see that there's a person inside that loves being in front of people and feels like people are really beautiful and that they treat her really well when she shines in front of them. Isn't that true?
Yeah, once my friend Julian, he locked me up in the bathroom.
Yeah? Well, that's not very nice at all. But it probably wasn't that mean, right? It was actually probably something you laughed at.
But he didn't really lock the door, but then when I tried to get out, he locked it, and then I used toilet paper and then opened the sink with the keys.
So you're also really smart, aren't you? You figured out a way.
So then I opened it, and then I pushed the door, and then he couldn't handle it, so he let it go, and then I ran out. And
I
then
love that.
I put him in there, locked him in there.
I love that. Well, I don't love the fact that you got revenge. That's not necessarily the best thing in the world. However, the part that I love is that you...
Payback.
Well, you gave him a payback, yes, and sometimes people need a payback, but the thing I actually like even more...
I fired him back.
Yeah, but the thing I like even more is that you used your really, really smart brain to come up with a way out of a problem, didn't you? You were stuck in the bathroom and you came up with a really smart way to get out of it.
Keys were out, and his mom and dad were outside washing the car.
Yeah?
And like, the mom was just outside doing something. I didn't know what she was doing, but I knew the dad was cleaning the car because he said, "Stay here, I'm gonna clean the car." The dad said that. So then, like, they didn't know, and Julian didn't tell on them, or else then I couldn't come back.
So one of the things that one of my old teachers said to me that was really one of the most powerful things, I'm doing this on purpose right now as part of the session, is that people don't very often respond much to things you say to them, but they often respond very much to things you say about them. And so I can say something to you, and I can say you're really smart. And it doesn't tend to do a very big difference. But the one thing I'm going to point out is I'm going to tell you that your daughter's pretty amazing. I love the fact that she came up here and had the guts to stand up in front of this group the way that she did. You've got yourself a really resourceful, beautiful daughter that really has a lot of brains. She really does, doesn't she? Yeah? You should definitely tell her that more often. You should definitely tell her that.
She's doing things without thinking. Sometimes she's really quick. Instead of using her words, using her hands.
Yeah, and I can see that because as we just mentioned that she's got a lot of different things driving her of fear and lack of safety. But I will tell you is like what I'm seeing here in the girl that's sitting in front of me, this one over here, is that she's got a lot of brains that drives her very intelligently. It's like, I mean, I don't think that there's very much that she does that isn't pre-thought out. Although very often the things that she does may not seem thought out because it's just a fear response, fear of safety. And so the reason why I'm mentioning it over here in this way is that can very often cause more of a change than me saying anything to the client directly, in this case, if that makes sense. Sometimes a person hearing people talking about them can make a much bigger change for them than you saying something to them directly. So how about this? How about you go sit down for a little bit, and then later on we'll talk a bit more? Okay? You want to sit next to your mom? You enjoy sitting over there more? Okay, go sit with mom for a sec. So, what do we do there in a different way for a sec? Again, we didn't comment on negative. What we did was we gave her her moment. We gave her everything that she wanted. We gave the part inside of her the chance to sit up in front of a group. And now she's very happy to go sit back with her mom, as opposed to us chastising her, telling her how bad she is, telling her whatever that she's doing in any way, shape, or form. Rather, we actually give that part the chance to get everything it wanted in this moment. We spoke about her. We gave her her moment to shine. We gave her a moment in the spotlight. And then she's very happy to go sit back over there. Does that make sense?
Well, accept her how she is.
Accept her how she, and that was very well put. That's a very important thing that when you start working with clients, your job you are never allowed, any person that sits in front of you, to sit there with a judgmental face. If a person comes in front of you and it's your 10th session and a person says, I want to molest children, or if a person sits in front of you and says, I want to kill all Americans, whatever it is, obviously at the same time you have to realize the fact that there are laws that you need to abide by. You can't ignore certain things. You obviously have to reach out to the right authorities for certain things. Person comes up to you and says, I want to kill my wife and I've already got a gun and I'm ready for it. You have to warn them of the fact that you are going to Baker Act them, you are going to send them to the right institution to take care of it. But if a person is in a place that they tell you that something negative is going on, it's not your job to turn around and tell them that they're wrong. It's your job as a hypnotist, as a help agent, to help uncover what it is that truly inside of them is looking to come out, and help them come up with better ways to achieve that.
But most of the time, there are more reasons than only one.
Agreed, but you can always, so that's actually a very good point. It's very often you're not going to get one specific reason why a person is doing something. But that's the idea of what we call chunking up. And that's a very important part. The thing is, if a person comes in and says, I want to kill my wife, and you say, well, why do you want to kill her? Well, because she's and I'm not going to say any negative words in front of younger people, because she treats me badly, because she doesn't care for me anymore, because she broke all of her promises to me. All these reasons are why I want to kill her. Okay, yeah, there's a lot of reasons there. And you say, okay, fine, so let's say you got all those things met. Let's say you killed her and you got all these things met. What would that do for you? Well, then I could finally feel free from feeling like she's always like treating me badly. And then I could also meet someone better that's better for me. And then there's more reasons there. And you go, okay, and if you got all those things, what would that do for you? Well, then I could finally feel peace.
In jail?
What?
In jail?
Well, there's possibly in jail, yeah, but maybe they want to go. You'll be surprised. One of the interesting things here, it's called secondary gain. And what happens is very often when a person does something, one of the things that they say is for negative reasons that they want to do it. So one example that you'll see very often is when you work with people that want to quit smoking. And you'll ask a person, why is it you want to quit? Why is it that you get attracted towards cigarettes? And more often than I would care to explain, and Pavel will say this too, you'll ask a person, why is it that you want to smoke? And they'll say, because I want to die. And you sit there going, okay, this is not the way I expected the session to go. I was expecting something positive right here, like, what? You want to die? What is that about? And again, you can't sit there and judge the person and think that that's a bad thing. You go, well, okay, so you got to die. What would that do for you? Well, if I were to die, maybe then I could finally feel peace, because I've got this terrible stress in my life and I don't know how to pay my bills, and I feel like a failure in front of my wife and children, and whatever else it is. So you want to smoke? And if you want to smoke, you want to die. And that's a very important thing to know, because if you were to do hypnosis on that person and give them direct suggestion of every cigarette you take to your mouth is going to bring you closer to your grave, the part inside their brain is going to go there, fantastic, I'm winning this game. I got exactly what I wanted. So think about that. But if, however, you go ahead and you find out what the part really wants, well, it's I want peace from all these different things, and you help a person uncover peace in such a way that they no longer have to reach for a cigarette. What happens is they don't want at any point in time to go ahead and damage their body at that point. They'll actually move away from cigarettes very, very quickly. Does that make sense? You're looking at me like,
I'm just, that's her topic.
yeah?
That's her topic.
That's your topic, the smoking? Yeah? So have you ever experienced that before, that a person comes to you as a smoker and they actually want the negative
No,
effects
I'm
of smoking?
myself.
Oh, you're a smoker. Maybe we'll discuss that in a short while if you want to quit, but it's we'll get there in a moment. So one of the most interesting ways that this has always been described, and I've always loved this, Connie Andreas, one of my favorite teachers that teaches parts work, she tells a story of Japan in World War II. So in World War II, Japan is an island nation, and when they joined the war, they realized that one of their largest places of being weak is people taking over the islands surrounding Japan and being able to attack from close. But all these islands that are surrounding Japan, some of them are really tiny, like we're just talking about maybe even less than a square mile, maybe a couple of square miles, whatever it is. So they knew that they couldn't send out army battalions to every single thing. So what they did was they got their soldiers and they trained their soldiers in basically survival skills. And they sent out small groups of soldiers, 2, 3 soldiers, 1 soldier, 20 soldiers, onto all these different islands. And they said, go ahead, protect these islands. When the war is over, we'll come and get you. Unfortunately, the war didn't go very well for Japan. And when Japan lost the war, they didn't have the resources to go out to all these tiny, thousands of tiny little islands surrounding Japan. And there were soldiers that were left on these islands for years after World War II finished, still not knowing that the war was over. We'll come back to you in a minute, I promise.
He's so shy.
So the soldiers didn't know that the war was over. And so what happened was, years after the war was over, like sometimes like even 10 years after the war was over, people would go, the tourists would go traveling through Japan. All of a sudden, someone would start shooting at them. And people were like, what the heck is going on here? And Japan would go, oh, there's still soldiers on that island. We never got them off. And so what the Japanese government did, they actually had a policy in place of how they would deal with these soldiers once they found soldiers on these islands. And obviously, like one of the ways that they could do it is they could just send people onto the island and tell the people, guess what, war's over. It sucks. What they discovered, though, is if they did that, they knew for a fact that these soldiers would get crushed because they've lost so many years of their lives for no good reason. So what they did was they would get one of their old generals to dress up in their full military attire, and they would get the general to go out to the island and go and welcome these soldiers back and say, congratulations, thank you so much for protecting us. The war is now over, and now let's bring you back to Japan. And when they did it from that point of view, and the person would go back to Japan, now remember, this is like 15, 20 years after the war is over, they would give them a parade, they would treat them very well, and then slowly, over the course of time, they would slowly let the soldier know that the war is over. And what would happen is, it wouldn't be a shock to the soldier. It would actually be a very welcome change. And the reason why I'm telling you this story is, when we start working with people and their parts, we don't want to be mean to them. We don't want to be aggressive. We want to very gently coax a person's part through love and acceptance and tell them, let's help you find a new way to come with what you want. Not tell them, guess what you did happened when you were bullied, that's silly and stupid. What you want to do, okay, I don't know what's going on back there, maybe we'll just continue on with that in a minute. But what we want to do is we want to basically always remember that our job is to help a person in the most gentle and loving way possible. And always, are we going to come back in a bit?
We'll be back.
Yeah? Okay, that sounds pretty good. So what we want to do is we want to basically, in the most gentle and loving way possible, introduce a person's part into new solutions, into new ways of getting what it wants. And as I warned you, I can talk for hours and I can get distracted and I can do 20 million different things. But what I want to do is just take you through the concept of how to basically deal with a part, so we can actually get something from this rather than me just talking a lot.
I have a little question
Please.
about that. So, but they are also, might not be many people, but some of them are really aggressive. And it don't matter from what side you're trying to get to them, they're blocking. So how do you do that to get closer to the problem, to the issue?
I've got to, it's obviously it very much depends on the person. It's like every single person will always be something different. But Pavel, if he hasn't mentioned it yet, it's one of the biggest things that we deal with is rapport.
It's what?
Rapport, which is basically connecting with another person.
Okay.
So if a person comes into your office, and now I can start using different language as is necessary. If a person comes into your office and they're sitting like this and they're like, F off, I don't want to talk to you. The worst thing you can do is sit there and be all gentle with them and be like, oh, that's okay, let's talk a bit more. It's not, you're never going to connect with that person. What you want to do with a rapport, it's called pacing and leading. So if a person comes into your office and they're aggressive, the worst thing you can do is be the exact opposite of them. It's like, there's always that concept of opposites attract, but it's not true. If you really think about life, what happens is people generally gravitate towards people that are very similar to them.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So if a person comes in and they're really aggressive, they come in and they say, I don't want to talk to you. You go, well, fantastic. I guess this is going to be a terrible session, isn't it? But if you had something to share with me, what would it be? So what you do is it's obviously it's going to very much depend on what's going on, but you got to meet a person at their level and then lead them to where you want to be.
Okay.
So but again, it very much depends on the situation. And the one thing I will tell you, based upon that, is if a person comes in and they're very aggressive and they don't want to be there, the worst thing you can do is force a person to be there. Your job is not to change the world. Your job is not to change people that don't want to change. Your job is to help the people that really want to be helped. They can be in a bad mood when they're being helped. But if a person doesn't want to be helped, don't try to help them.
What if it's your family?
Same reason.
Same logic.
Same.
So when I first learned this in 2001, my sister was very overweight at the time. She was 450 pounds roughly. And we started learning covert hypnosis, how to help a person without them knowing about it. And so I walked up to the teacher and I was like, so how can I do this with my sister? I want to help her. I want to help her. And my teacher looked at me and was like, why would you do that? Did she ask you to help her? And I said, no, but I mean, if she stays this way, she's going to die. It's like, I can't let this continue. And so he said, well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And you're not the person to decide it's broke.
She's the one.
She has to decide that it's something that needs to be fixed.
And she can
How-
ask.
Yeah, she has to ask. Now, it's very possible that if she asks and she's difficult, then you go ahead and you work through rapport techniques. But it's not your job to decide that she needs to change. However much you want that for her, you can't apply your will on someone else. You don't know what her mission in this world is. You don't know if she's meant to, if he or she, I don't know, I'm obviously talking about my sister, you don't know what they're meant to go through. And however much you want to help them, however much you want to push them in the right direction, if they are hard and fast stuck to not wanting to change, the worst thing you can sometimes do is try and push a person towards change and exert your will upon them.
I think, so what happened to me sometimes was when I was trying to help people against their will, because I was thinking that, I can help this person and his life will be better.
Right?
I'm sorry, I was the ass at the end. I was the bad one because I was trying to help this person. This person doesn't need the help. This person needed to go to the end to feel that hard feeling, to go through the whole thing, to feel so bad that he will say stop. And he had to go through the whole thing, and I should not stop him.
But what about if you will have to pay for their shit? You know what I mean?
Well, so that's an interesting one. Now you're making yourself into the victim.
How? What if it's your own child?
If it's your own child, and now this is a very tough one for people to hear. It's a very, 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 very tough one for people to hear. You have to be responsible for you. They have to be responsible for
not
them.
in the United States. I mean, you're responsible.
How
for
old
it.
is your child? I don't know this one.
No, my son is 17, but I'm just saying that he does a mistake that I'll have to pay for it. I mean, because they go up to parents, they don't go up to the kid.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you're saying you cannot change them. I mean, you have to, you have no choice.
No, at the end of the day, if it's your child, but I'm not saying that you have to change your child, work with them. You have to set boundaries. You have to teach your child things. You have to.
How if he thinks that he is already old enough to make his own decision?
Then you have to. Sometimes a person needs to touch a fire and feel what it's like to get burnt.
Yeah, but if you have someone who cleans the fire up for him.
Well, that is where you're making yourself into the victim.
But it's not me. It's the government. It's like that's how it is here. You know what I mean? That's how they go after you. You're the one who have to clean up.
I don't know if I should ask for a very specific example in this case or not, because I don't really know what your situation is. But what I can say is and it's a tough one, because when it's your family, you are responsible for them and you have to take responsibility for them. But there's a difference between taking responsibility for them and letting their actions change your world. There's a difference between turning around and giving them boundaries.
I'm suffering for it, and I lost like a lot of things, because of this. But I get this is my child, and I have to raise him and at least when he's 18,
Mm-hmm. I understand it very, very, very well, and I've dealt with so many parents with it. And it's usually the toughest sessions I have is exactly this kind of session, is in teaching a parent how to leave a child alone and let them make their own mistakes.
Yeah.
It's a tough one.
That's right.
It's a tough one, but it ends up being on your plate, having to set the right boundaries, and after you set those boundaries, leaving a child alone. And if they make their mistakes, they have to learn to live with them. It's a very, very, very tough one. It's a very tough one because, at the end of the day, yes, you are responsible for them. But you set boundaries and you have to basically, and you don't want your child to end up in prison. You don't want your child to end up, God forbid, possibly mutilated or in any way, or God forbid, even worse than that, dead, whatever it is. You obviously have to set the right boundaries. But at the end of the day, all you can do is set boundaries and punishment and reward as necessary, but you cannot let that person completely change your world. You have to stay the beacon of strength. And as you are the beacon of strength, you cannot let that person make you weak.
It's not about
It's tough. It's a tough one.
It's not about the person. It's just society. It's just how to say that?
It's the rules. It's the rules.
It's like everybody make money out of this kind of. They just find whatever divorce, anything. They just find a little problem that you have in the family just to make money out of you. You know what I mean? They don't care about me, my child, and my whatever family. They just make money out of you.
But
and they make even your kid even worse. I'm talking about psychologists. I'm not talking about her. I'm just talking about the psychologist who works here. You know what I mean? Okay, you have to have a psychologist, investigator. Everything they make even worse.
I don't know the very specific situation, so we can't talk about the very.
Suffering. Okay, I'm just saying that.
It's what I will say is yes. It's society definitely makes it hard, and the parent is generally the point of last punishment.
And you know what? My son does want me to help him. He told me, he said he wants, because them taking the classes right now, and he wants me to help him. He wants me to do it.
Do you mind if we talk about it, or would you rather not?
Yeah, I want to talk about it. That's why I'm talking about it. I have to sit there.
So tell me more about what's going on.
With my son?
Yeah.